I'ma be the best that you never had. I'ma kick back when you fake like that. Head out of the game, I don't play that back. Once you let me go, no, you never come back. I'ma be the best that you never had. I'ma kick, 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 I'ma be the best that you never had. Rumpa pa pa, rumpa pa pa, see I got it. Rumpa pa pa, rumpa pa pa, do you want it? I don't flex, I'm success. Effortless, I'm like a rumpa pa pa, rumpa pa pa, see I got it. I don't flex, I'm success. I don't flex, I'm success. I don't flex.
Did you see Jimmy Buckets last night? Did you see it? Did you catch it? 56 points. That's an 8 seed. That's a team that everyone thought was done, didn't have a chance. But there's that thing that we call the clutch gene. And time again, regardless of the type of season he's having, and he had a great season, regardless of the type of game he's having, there are certain players like Jimmy Butler that you just never want to be quite too sure about, because the fourth quarter comes around, they could hang 30 on you, 25, 22 points. I watched De'Aaron Fox take that shot against the Golden State Warriors. How did I know it was going to go in? I watched Domantas Sabonis take a free throw. How did I know it wasn't going to go in? How did I know it? Is it an illusion? Is there a clutch gene? Let's talk about it. Because I think that there is a psychological profile, a genuine mental makeup made in a lab of the type of player that you can count on in high-stress situations. This is a guy that you can count on in high-stress situations. Proved it all year. This is a guy that you can count on in high-stress situations. Proved it his whole life. Homeless, NBA, 30th overall pick, superstar. Proved it. This is a guy who proved that you could count on him in high-stress situations. Airballing threes before he even knew how to take threes. Didn't matter. Did it faze him? Nope. Big-time game winners. This is a guy that you can count on with the game on the line. How do I know it? I'll tell you what made me so fascinated with the subject. It's this man. You know, I've mentioned it before a couple of times. I'm a big fan of those Sacramento Kings teams. Peja Stojakovic, Vlade Divac, obviously I'm from the same country as those guys. And, you know, it was pretty cool watching two people from your country on a Western Conference powerhouse. And time again, I saw them come up short in big situations. And obviously I remember the Fab Five. Do y'all remember what happened with Chris Webber and the Fab Five? Let me refresh your memory.
Long, a 2 to tie. Michigan will have to bring it.
Oh, he walked and the referee missed it.
Webber brings it into the front court. They have no timeouts remaining.
Oh, he causes too many timeouts. That's a technical foul.
He called a timeout. Michigan doesn't have any.
He got by with a walk, and Jimmy calls a he calls a timeout. He doesn't realize that's Michigan's too many, and so it'll be a technical foul. North Carolina shooting and the ball.
What happened? Watch it again, okay? So he's clearing up for a free throw. Game's tight. High leverage moment, right? What's he thinking right here? What's going through his head? What are all the thoughts that are racing through his head right now? Am I going to get the rebound? Am I going to miss it? Oh, I got it. Okay, I got the rebound. Now what? Where's the point guard? He's thinking all these things. He's got 18 seconds on the clock to make a play, right? And he travels. Thinking all those things, he traveled.
He walked in, a referee missed it.
Now he dribbles to the last place on the court that they tell you to dribble, which is to the sideline. You're not supposed to dribble to the sideline. You try to stay in the center, especially if you're not the greatest ball handler, and he was all right. Wasn't Jalen Rose. He wasn't the lead initiator. He dribbles to the sideline. Why? He panicked. He panicked once. He panicked twice. All right? There's an open pass right here. He doesn't see it. Nothing is happening for Chris Webber right now. Everything, his entire world is collapsing right now. Guess this, picks up his dribble. No plan. This is 5 seconds.
They have no timeouts remaining.
He crosses too many times.
He calls a timeout. Cost his team national championship. So many questions. A reputation completely scorned. How did it happen? It's the best player in the country. Number 1 overall pick. How did it happen? Do y'all remember in 2018, the Houston Rockets, one of the greatest three-point shooting teams of all time, they missed 27 straight three-pointers in a high-leverage game, the odds of which I believe 538 calculated were 1 in 72,000 of that exact event happening for a team that's that good at shooting. How did it happen? Let me try to explain this. At least what I think. There's 3 things you can train, okay? Number 1 is your craft, okay? You learn the ins and outs of dribbling, that's your craft, all right? You learn, the perfect form on your jump shot, that's your craft. You learn new counters, you get a strength and training coach to come in and, a basketball training coach to work on your footwork in the post, speed up your moves, that's all craft. All of it is craft. Learning to make passes with both hands, that's craft. Putting on a visor so that you don't look down at your, when you're a kid dribbling basketball, that's craft. All of that is craft. The next thing you can work on is your body. That's that's the weight room, that's strength and conditioning, that's cardio. That's just getting your mind, that's your body, right? That's just getting your body right. Cardio, fitness, going up and down the mountain, working in high altitude. That's your body. So you got your craft and your body. There's a third thing that you got to work on, and that's the mind. Every sport that I have ever heard of or followed, when you talk to peak performers, whether it be Novak Djokovic, right? I played tennis when I was young. I taught tennis for a little bit too. That ball, when you're talking about pros, I was talking about like guys who played state. The ball comes at you so fast. So fast. You can't blink, you miss it. You watch it on TV, it's so different. But if you are on the receiving end of a Novak Djokovic serve, you blink, it's gone. How do you hone your awareness into that 1 millisecond? It's such a small window. When you break down the science and precision of timing in basketball and sports, high competitive sports, it is not seconds, it is fractions of a second. Let's not say 1 millisecond, 80 milliseconds off, 20 milliseconds off, and you could miss it. I remember a sports science 2-minute video by Sports Science in which they talked about the window on a LeBron James chase down block. He has an 18-foot disadvantage from when the player starts dribbling to when he starts. He catches up to him. That's all body. Okay? That's all body. That's body, training, athleticism, genetic gifts, whatever. He times the block. That's hand-eye coordination. He has the smallest window to nail it. Little too late, goaltend. Little too early, you fall on your face. How do you time it all? Well, it's hand-eye coordination, yes, but the minute when I say the mind must activate the body in that situation in order to chase the block in the first place, to know what's happening in that moment of registry. Chris Webber did not know what was happening because he was on a different planet that night. Jimmy Buckets was not. Why do people choke? Consider the Raptors. We did a live stream. We did a watch party for the game, right? I remember looking back at that live stream. Go check the comments. Pascal Siakam goes to the line for 3. Every single comment was, he's going to miss one at least. I knew he was going to miss one. I didn't think he was going to miss 2. He goes to the line. The first one is barely grazes rim. That's not a little off, guys. Talk to any shooter out there. It's not a little off. When you hit barely front rim, you must be on minute 52 and in triple overtime and your legs are dead, or your nerves have gotten the best of you in that moment. Air balls at the free throw line do not happen for professional basketball players. I don't think Pascal Siakam probably missed that badly in practice, probably the entire season. So why is the player that shows up in a deciding game, do or die, against the Chicago Bulls so materially different than the player who plays in practice? Why is that player so capable of putting up 52 points against the New York Knicks, who are a much better team than the Chicago Bulls? And why does he fade under the bright lights in that moment? And why is it that some guys like Scottie Barnes do the complete opposite? They have no interest in Charlotte, no interest in Detroit. But big game on the road against a superstar, LeBron James, Lakers, team down against the Milwaukee Bucks, 19 points in fourth quarter and overtime. Team on the ropes, season on the ropes, going on the road against Philadelphia, boom. How is it that some players are able to do this? I think it starts partly with self-confidence. It starts with a ridiculous amount of real self-confidence, not the fake self-confidence, not that, pretense, that pretend confidence, that type of confidence where you put on a show for everybody just to let everyone know you're in the room. No, this type of confidence is a serious self-awareness. It is a I don't care, but in a really positive way, I don't care. So I want to talk about this. Every player that I've described as being super clutch, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Jimmy Butler, Scottie Barnes. There are so many examples, by the way, guys. You look through history. There are a lot of examples of guys that have been considered clutch performers. What do they all have in common? Well, yeah, they got balls. They got some serious balls to them. But I want you to look at this. Would OG Anunoby, would Fred VanVleet, would Pascal Siakam, would any player on this team have the nerves to tell off a Thaddeus Young, 14-year vet, considered, by your organization as a leader, has a leadership role in your locker room? I tried to present this to Bryant on a live once, and he kind of brushed it off. But I'm going with it. I'm going all the way. My girlfriend was like, he knows Scottie a lot better than you do. So like, why wouldn't you just go with it? But I don't think he's giving this enough credit. Jimmy Butler swore at his coach, at his teammates, at the ownership. He didn't give a shit. Kobe Bryant used to address his coaches as yo motherfucker. Assistant coaches. Kobe Bryant swung at Shaquille O'Neal. Do you think that there is a link between having the balls to scream at Phil Jackson having the balls to tell Phil Handy, yo, motherfucker, you're late, and what, that's your coach, right? And having the nerves to show up in a really big fourth quarter. There's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. Did you know that most people are wired to see negative things? Did you know this? That if I showed you 20 beautiful things and one very scary thing, that your mind would necessarily almost gravitate. Like if I told you 10 good things that were going to happen in the next year for you and one horrible thing that was going to happen to you, that your mind would disproportionately elevate the negative thing above. Why? Well, think about where we come from. Think about our ancestors. Think about how our brains are programmed, right? We're always looking for scams, liars, cheaters, murderers. Why do you think the news is so full of bad news? Because most people are scared. Most people are scared. So I want to understand what goes through the mind of somebody who consistently chokes in the fourth quarter. Here's my estimate. Don't fuck up. Don't fuck this up. Okay. Here's what I think goes through the mind of someone who consistently shows up in these big moments. Make this shot. You see the difference in that messaging? It's completely different. You know, I once talked to an athlete who consistently showed up really big. And I'm not going to say who it was, but like talked to them and I was like, how is it that you're so capable of knocking in these game winners? And he says, I think of the brightest possible outcome and then I make it happen. I visualize the shot going in and I make it happen. Most people visualize the consequences of missing the shot. Don't fuck this up. What's the most powerful word in that mantra? Don't fuck up. Don't fuck up. You think you're telling yourself, don't miss the shot, but I swear in your mind cannot register. I'll give you an example. Let's say, this is a little bit abstract, but bear with me for a second. You're at a party, right? You tell somebody that Greg is a really bad employee. Greg is an addict. You talk shit. You gossip, right? But Greg's not in the room. You're just talking about somebody. The person you told that to is going to now have a stronger association between you and the words addict. And everything you said about Greg has now been somehow tied to you. That's how our minds work. They register in this way. That's how the message wires. You've heard of this, yeah? Let me just check the comments for a second, just see if you guys are totally like. Damian Lillard is a great example. Great example. Dame time, right? Everything's cool, calm, collected. In those moments, all he's thinking is make the shot. Make the shot. Miss a shot, make the next shot. It's a completely positive way to wire your brain. Not everyone can do this. Why? Well, I've done a lot of digging on Scottie, right? Y'all know this, of course. Okay. You don't become the internet's #1 Scottie Barnes fan without doing a lot of digging on Scottie Barnes. And so I often wonder, what makes him so cool, calm, and collected in these moments? What made Kobe Bryant so cool, calm, and collected in these moments? You know, both of these guys have a very similar story. It's not just because Scottie Barnes looked up to Kobe Bryant that he was his favorite player growing up. That's not it. That's not the only thing. Well, most people when they're raised, like just when they're younger, right? So my girlfriend and I, we're talking about having a kid, right? So we were discussing a parenting strategy yesterday. And we were talking about, you know, what would happen if, you know, we had a 5-year-old and that 5-year-old had a toy and we went to the playground and someone took our 5-year-old's toy. And then, you know, the 5-year-old got spazzy and mad and pushed the other kid, right? How do you deal with that situation in that moment, right? I'll tell you how most people deal with it. They deal with it by shaming the child. They deal with it by scolding, maybe disciplining, If you're super old school, maybe hitting the child, ridiculing the child. Why? Because in that moment, you become fearful. Your fight or flight response goes in, right? You start thinking, everyone's going to think I'm a terrible parent because I have this child who just pushed the other child. Let me make an example of my child and therefore transfer all the shame that I am feeling onto the child. Now, what happens if you don't do this? So when we were talking about like what's the perfect way to deal with the situation, here's some unsolicited parenting advice from a non-parent. Okay. So what I suggested was go up to your child, right? Go up to your child. Pull them aside first. Pull them aside. Ask them what happened. No shame. Okay. Ask them what happened. So-and-so took my toy. Okay. All right. This is not how we respond to someone taking our toy. Now we're going to go over there. We're going to apologize. Number one. Number two, you're going to give your toy to that child as an apology. Okay. Still no shame. No shame at all. Okay. And we're going to go home. We're going to talk about, conflict resolution. You're going to clean your room. And guess what? Next week, I'm going to buy you the same toy, but you're going to have to be without it for a week. I'm going to buy you the exact same toy. What have you wired? No shame, no fear, forgiveness, empathy, and unconditional love. What did Kobe Bryant say? His father, Joe Jellybean Bryant, a basketball player, a professional basketball player in the NBA and in Europe, said to him, I will love you if you score 0 or 60. What did Kobe say? Kobe said, appreciate that, but now that I know that, I'm gonna score 60. Maybe someday you'll learn a little bit more about how Scottie grew up and the type of love that he was given. But I have a very strong inclination that Scottie received very similar messaging when he was growing up. Unconditional support from the people around him. I've never seen anyone around him become sour on him because he had a bad month. I've never seen them get overly gassed because he had a good month. The support is consistent. There's no fear of what will happen if I have a bad game because it's unconditional. Everything's unconditional. There's no fear. Jack Armstrong talked about it against the Philadelphia 76ers. He said, this kid plays with zero anxiety. A lot has been made about Evan Mobley having a really good season this year. Y'all watching the playoffs? Does he look like a super high impact performer? I'm not calling out Evan Mobley. I don't want to get, Cleveland mad at me again. But does it not help you appreciate how rare and special it is that what Scottie did as a rookie? Does it make you perhaps appreciate that in a high leverage game where the ball barely came his way against Chicago, he still put up 19 points and he looked damn dialed in. He was having one of those games. Scottie was the only reason, one of the biggest reasons that I genuinely wanted the Raptors to try and make the playoffs in the last week of the season. I was like, screw it. Screw the pick. Just go and watch what this guy does if he's healthy against the Milwaukee Bucks. You'll feel differently about him. You will feel differently about him. How am I so sure? How am I so sure? How did I put over $100, just laid it on the line for Scottie over 18 points against Chicago? How did I know? I genuinely thought 19 points was disappointing. To be honest, I was expecting much more, but I put the over 18. How? How do I know that in that moment he's going to show up? Because the kid plays with no anxiety, man. And when you play with no anxiety, you're always thinking of the positive outcome. I'm going to make this pass. I'm going to make this shot. Sometimes those people are they march to the beat of their own drum. They're a little bit difficult, to pin down. They're a little bit difficult to understand. Maybe they're a little bit frustrating sometimes really temperamental. You remember Scottie in his rookie season, Fred comes over to him, says something to him. He just rolls his eyes and turns the other way. That's an NBA champion, bro. That is an NBA champion. That is a soon-to-be all-star. That's your team captain. You're a fucking rookie. I understand. Some of y'all probably thought that was disrespectful. Come on, man. You got to have some respect for Fred VanVleet. It's not like he's disrespecting Fred VanVleet. He's just not afraid of Fred VanVleet. He's not afraid of Pascal Siakam. He respects these guys, but he's not afraid of them. He's not afraid of what it's going to look like if he disagrees with Thaddeus Young. He's not going to take Thaddeus Young talking to him like he's a 2-year-old. Like Delano Banton probably would take that. There's no passive aggressive energy from Scottie. It's all aggression all the time. Michael Jordan hated his owner. Hated him. Would routinely make fun of him. To the point that, I mean, this is the guy signing your fucking checks. How many players do you know that would openly mock their owner? How many players do you know, like Scottie, right? Teams down like 10, 12, on the road, does a 360 jam. That takes balls, man. That takes some serious courage. Because you got to be open to the criticism. What about a guy in Scottie Barnes, right? What about a guy who is just willing to write down every goal that he wants, right? What about a guy who's willing to flex in DeMar DeRozan's face? Patrick Beverley, DeMar DeRozan, teams down at that point, right? Playing game, just flexes on their face. No consideration. Why? Because there's no fear. What is it that stops you from talking to that girl? Scottie would chew out people on his live, right? Like, he will straight up chew you out. Is there fear? There's no fear. There's no fear at all. There's no consequence. There's no fight or flight. That is the type of person who performs well in the playoffs, in my opinion. Jimmy Butler, yelling at his younger teammates, yelling at his coaches. That whole mindset of, I don't give a fuck. You can't do anything to me. That's Jimmy Butler in a nutshell. He does not give a fuck. Most people call that difficult. Most people call that hard to coach. Pat Riley identified it for what it really was. The makings of a clutch superstar. Jimmy Buckets. Dame Lillard does not give a fuck that you think he's wasting his career in Portland, because that's what he wants to do. Kawhi Leonard is one of the rudest people that you probably ever met if you don't understand who he is. I'm telling you, man, this guy will straight up ghost you. He does not give a shit about you. He doesn't care how he looks. He doesn't care about anything. Fyodor Emelianenko, the UFC fighter, well, who was in Pride and then, like one of the greatest MMA fighters. Mike Tyson. Go down the line of the greatest performers, high leverage performers, high level athletes in NBA, NHL history. And you will find that they are working on their craft and they are masters of their craft. That they are masters of their body. But most importantly, they have the third thing. They are masters of their mind. I remember how many times we watched super talented players choke over and over and over. And you say, they don't have the clutch gene. It's not a gene. It's conditioning. It's fear. It is an absence of fear. I mentioned earlier that our ancestors are wired for fear. Why? Fear keeps us alive. If you spot the lion in the forest, in the bushes, and you see it and you run, that kept you alive. That kept you alive. But it also made you afraid. Right? Thinking Fast and Slow is a book that I highly recommend. I've mentioned it a couple times on this channel. If you want the insight into the mind of a high performer, why do some people consistently show up over and over in high leverage moments that most people crumble and fade? How do some people dial it up to another level? Thinking Fast and Slow. It is the neuroscience of optimal peak performance. Anxiety takes your body and turns it into another body. The Chris Webber who called that timeout was not Chris Webber. He was a completely different person in that moment. His legs felt like noodles, I guarantee it. His heart was beating faster than it probably ever has. His hands were probably shaking. This is fear. If you're on a plane, a little bit of turbulence, most people feel fear. It's normal. It's a normal thing. What Scottie Barnes, Jimmy Butler, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dame Lillard, De'Aaron Fox, what these guys can do, there's nothing normal about it. It's borderline psychopathic because they do not have fear over things that most people are afraid of. It's weird, but that's what makes them special. So I hope that has been an interesting philosophical exploration into what is the clutch gene. I genuinely believe that the Raptors are very lucky to have a player like this. I think any team out there that has a player like this is usually going to have some long-term playoff success. Look, there's obviously an element of skill that Scottie's going to have to develop, but the body and mind element of knowing how to manage your emotions, that's what allows all that practice to actually come to fruition. Because it doesn't matter how many free throws you practice. It doesn't matter that you shoot 98% free throws in practice. If your brain is going to sabotage you every time you need big free throws down the stretch, you're never going to win. Listen to Kawhi Leonard. You know, it's not even surprising that this is the first guy in NBA history who won a Finals MVP and then left the team that he won Finals MVP with. Talk to anyone who knows Kawhi, they'd be like, that's Kawhi. In a nutshell, he does not give a fuck. That's exactly it. He doesn't care. The social consequences that you and I operate with, the what will people think of me, the what will happen if how will people think I look like, how is this going to end? None. Zero. There's none of it. He doesn't care. Doesn't fucking care. His mind is not wired that way. This is what my family wants. This is where I want to be. That's where I'm going to be. That's it. It's over. Hey, Clippers, I want Paul George. That's it. It's over. Nostalgia, hey, Kawhi, are you worried that every person in the world thinks you're the biggest piece of shit because everyone loves Greg Popovich and the Spurs and thinks that you're a cancer? Nah, I'm just going to go win a championship. Are you afraid that maybe putting a middle finger inside your fucking championship ring is going to be a little bit crass? Nah, I want a middle finger inside. This is the dish. Look, this is not shade on DeMar DeRozan, but I watched DeMar DeRozan for a really long time. He was one of my favorite players. You could feel his anxiety. Every time the game got close, you could literally feel it. I'm not saying he never had a big game. I'm just saying generally, you could feel it. You could feel all the weight. It started to be like, it was like he was wearing a backpack. And every time the game got close, and every time the moment became bigger, he started to it was like bricks started going into his backpack. And at some point, he just felt like he couldn't move on the court. He was running away from the ball. He was dribbling the ball, and it would just kind of slip out of his fingers. And you're like, man, this is a guy who has practiced basketball more than I've practiced anything than you've practiced anything. DeMar DeRozan is a workhorse, gym rat. He's practiced these moves 1,000 times. How is it that in the moments that he needed those moves the most, the moment that he needed that floater to go in, the moment that he needed that layup that was almost open to go in, somehow because all the practice in the world doesn't matter if your brain lets you down. And that's all it is. It's our minds playing tricks on us. Because when Kawhi Leonard sees LeBron James, he's not afraid. When Scottie Barnes sees LeBron James, he says, that's my big game. When most people see LeBron James, they think, don't get embarrassed. That's the chosen one. That's a Hall of Famer. They get scared. Most people get scared. And that's a normal thing. I'll tell you right now, if I met LeBron James, I would be really intimidated. I'd be like, that's fucking LeBron James. I would forget my name. I would probably like, I wouldn't know what planet I was on. I would probably like start rambling. I might call him Mr. James. I don't think I'd have the courage to call him LeBron. Holy shit. That's LeBron fucking James, yo. That's how a lot of people feel. I'll end this off with a story. The mental toughness element of this cannot be understated. When you are trying to win a basketball game, especially one of those high leverage ones, there are a million compounding factors that you are balancing all at once. You have a family, you have teammates, there's the opponent. There's so many different things that can distract you. There's the crowd. Apparently, sometimes there are little girls, 9-year-olds, yelling for their dads. There's all these things that become distractions. How do you block it all out? One of the things that coaches who train players, high-level athletes, do is awareness training. They call it awareness training. And this awareness training is meant to basically train you to block out noise. So I believe that high level athletes, the ones who show up in the clutch, are simply way better at blocking out everything that they don't need to focus on in that moment. What if I get blocked? What if I airball? What if I miss? They are not focused because it's not relevant. It doesn't help. Kawhi Leonard shoots 2% better in the playoffs. Hard to do. Almost unheard of. Almost impossible. People call him a cyborg. That's really what they're saying, right? Doesn't have those normal human fears and emotions. Most people do. Some people, another guy who had those like crazy eyes, Drazen Petrovic, Croatian legend, Drazen Petrovic. A great example of someone who just saw blood. Every time he saw an NBA great, you would see him dial it up. He would go at Jordan. He didn't care. Some, kid from Europe. Oh, he went at him. He went at him hard. And when asked why, he said, well, he's the best. This is the way to test myself. You see how that's a positive message? Everything's positive. It's all wired positive. So this has been a little bit of a rant, exploration on the neuroscience of basketball and high performance. I will, at some point, definitely do that. I mean, she's traveling to Edinburgh today, which is why I couldn't have her on. But Catherine is a really dear friend of mine, and she's one of the best neuroscientists that I know. And I had like 10 questions for her. I was like, I really want to probe inside into what allows these high level athletes, like the best ones, to tune out the noise. How are they able to prime their brains, train their brains, etc.? What does awareness training even look like? How does it help? How does it calm down the nervous system? And, because I mean, I'm pretty sure most of us have gotten clammy handed, right? In a high tense situation. So definitely, I'm looking forward to that conversation at some point. The playoffs have been wild so far. Nothing is going as expected for a lot of people, but if you remember, it was about 2.5 weeks ago, I did the play-in preview, and I said, if the Raptors make it, I'm really happy they're going to face the Milwaukee Bucks, because I think that team has some problems. They're having some friggin' problems right now. And look, 3-1, I don't know if they're going to come back from this. So this could be like Miami gets through, and it's like, if you're the Raptors, you're thinking, geez, don't worry. I don't think the Raptors have a Jimmy Butler who's capable of putting up 56. But, if you're watching what Jimmy Butler's doing, I think there's a lot of parallels to Scottie. I really do. I think there's a lot of parallels in personality. I think there's a lot of parallels in, strength, advantages, etc., in terms of how they can score and stuff. So I hope Scottie's watching this, and taking some notes and maybe letting his mind dance a little bit about what's possible. So yeah, anyways, guys, take care, and definitely check out the link below. I put a link in the description. Some of you have been asking about the Pendants Film Festival. Tickets are now on sale. Passes are on sale too. There's a little bit of a write-up. All the individual tickets and stuff are now available, happening May 12th to 14th. So definitely check it out. I think in our next live, I'll be able to show you a trailer of some films. It's dope. If you like international cinema, you like thoughtful stuff, you know, and if you're free and you're around Toronto and you're looking to, you know, you'll see me, you'll meet me, you know, for the first time, perhaps in person. So definitely be sure to check that out. All right. And yeah, if you haven't hit subscribe, like this video on your way out. I would very much appreciate it. There's 94 of you in here, and I doubt that there are 94 likes. I'm going to take a second to respond to some comments here. Hang on. No, but he did. I don't think he said that, but he said, yes, he did. L selector. Exactly. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, Robert Ory is a great example. Posts M. I wonder if you're the same Post Martinitza, or Martina or something. There was a person. News is full of bad news because bad news creates worry and anxiety, and worry and anxiety leads to buy more things, which keeps the economy going. I don't think it reflects our default mode. Sure it does, because we are prone, in my opinion, we are prone to focusing on things that could present threats to us, right? So for instance, I'll give you an example. So like say the news says, I mean, let's say you're a parent of a 5-year-old, right? And you're in Saskatoon, but the news is from Newfoundland, and they say, you know, someone spiked the candy in the store in Newfoundland, you know, and, you know, be careful if you have young kids, whatever. Well, you're in Saskatoon, and that's Newfoundland. Newfoundland is really far from Saskatoon. But is there a part of you that's going to be worried? Of course. Why? Because typically the consequences of worrying are far less than the consequences of not worrying, i.e. your child dies because they eat poison candy. You see, so our mind defaults to the worst possible outcome in almost every single situation. How many times have you thought about the worst case scenario? How many times did it actually happen? You know what I mean? Like, I remember one time, okay, so I used to have like a lot of anxiety. So I tried to get over my anxiety, and we were at Niagara Falls, and there was this girl that I thought she was very attractive. And I was like, all right, she's super hot. I'm not, but I'm going to shoot my shot. And I went up to her and I was like, I can't remember what I said. And she made fun of me. Like, she legitimately made fun of me. So in that case, like, everything that I thought was going to go wrong absolutely did go wrong, but I didn't die, you know? And I think the more often you do things that sort of scare you, the more often you realize that it's not life or death. You know what I mean? So some people are afraid of heights, but then you give yourself some exposure therapy to it. And some people are afraid of talking to new people. I don't think Scottie's like, I genuinely don't believe he's afraid of much of anything. You know, he might have some weird phobia, like he's afraid of grapes or something stupid, but like, I don't think I ever recall any situation. Like, I remember watching him in high school, right? And like a fight would break out and everyone's like super tense, like they tense up, like fight or flight. And he was just so calm. You know, he's just so calm. Like, do you remember that thing where he gets face to face with DeAndre Ayton and he just stares at him? Such Kobe vibes, yo. It's the same frigging thing with Matt Barnes. Like, there's no anxiety to that. It's just straight. There's no flexing. There's no hands up. Like, these are all defensive things, right? He's not swinging. It's nothing. There's just nothing. Like, you're going to swing at him, you're going to get decked, right? That, like, I tell you, the day someone takes a swing at him, he's going to get, like, suspended. But until that day happens, like, it's just anxiety-free dealing with everything, right? So he is just, I mean, he's blessed in a lot of ways. He's got a very special mind. And that mind is eternally optimistic. You know, it's always looking at the best possible outcome. You know, a chance to face Luka Doncic, that's a chance to, you know, face a great player and, you know, test myself out. It's not a chance to be embarrassed. It's not a chance to, you know, miss every shot. It's not a chance to be embarrassed because you scored 10 points or whatever. Like, he relishes those moments, and you know, it's rare. It's very rare to have a player at all who relishes high pressure situations. And he said it, you know, he said it prior to the Chicago game. He said, this is where I play my best. I am, I'm built for these moments as where I play my best. Yo, honestly, skills. If he can figure out his skills, if he can get himself coordinated, this is not a star. This is a superstar. It's going to happen. It's coming. I realize the skill set is far from, superstar level. It's not quite Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, LeBron James. It's not like that, right? But when you take into consideration the body and the mind element of this, you just hope that the skills can catch up to those other two things. Because and when it does, imagine being a Raptor fan and having that cool, calm, collected feeling that you once did with Kawhi Leonard. Was there any doubt in your mind that Kawhi was going to come up big in Game 3 against Milwaukee? No. Was there ever a doubt in your mind that Kawhi was going to empty the clip against the Sixers in Game 7? No. Not in my mind. I've just watched this guy do it too many times. Right? Anyways, have a great evening, guys. I got to go back to Penn Dance prep, but it was good to have a moment to just explore this a little bit more. Honestly, when I thought of making this video, I had like so many clips and, videos, but then I just totally ran out of time. So I ended up rambling to make up for it for 46 minutes. But I hope it was, I hope it was loosely interesting. So I don't want Dame Lillard because I believe in defense a lot. So why are people against assistant coach? So there's this entire notion of, oh my God, we're going to get stuck with an assistant coach. Yo, do I need to remind you guys? Last time we wanted Coach Budenholzer, you got Nick Nurse. You won a championship, right? Nick Nurse became one of the top 5 coaches in the NBA. Perceptions change fast. I promise you, perceptions change fast. Currently, right now, Will Hardy is considered one of the top 10 coaches in the league, right? Where was he? Where was he last year? Assistant to Ime Udoka, right? Ime Udoka, Mr., one of the top head coaches, the top head coach on the market. Okay. How many head coaching years has he done? 1. Right? It's not an anomaly. It's not an anomaly at all. What are you talking about, yo? Dwayne Casey was a first-time... Well, actually, that's not true. He had 1 head coaching year with Minnesota, which was not great. Taylor Jenkins with the Memphis Grizzlies. He's incredible. Are you telling me you wouldn't hire Taylor Jenkins right now if he became available? Of course. He wasn't a head coach before. Right? Look, I am all in on Jama, but there are some really good assistant coaches out there, man. People who haven't gotten a chance. And if you're telling me right now that I have to choose between, Earl Watson and Sam Cassell, I'll choose Sam Cassell. Also, interesting note, and Sam Cassell's never been a head coach. Very interesting note. I think, so someone mentioned the other day that Earl Watson is officially out of the running, but Adrian Griffin is not. And I was thinking about this. It's like, how do you confirm this? So Earl Watson has apparently, and I want to say apparently, taken Raptors off his Instagram bio. Is that true? Someone, I don't know. Yeah, exactly, Leanne. Like, look, at the end of the day, communication is communication. You can talk about pedigree, you can talk about respect and whatever, right? I feel like if you hire some dated, if you hire George Karl right now, or Larry Brown, not that you could, or Kevin O'Neal, like one of these old school coaches, who've coached in the NBA before or whatever, but are so out of touch with players today, I guarantee you they'd be fired within a year, right? Like Nate Bjorkgren has 1 year of head coaching experience and Adrian Griffin has 0 years of head coaching experience. Who do you want to hire tomorrow? Jama has 0 years of head coaching experience, but don't act like he hasn't been around the game for 20 plus years, man. 25 years, 30 years he's been around the game. He's played the game at a high level. He's played like borderline pro, right? I mean, he's been around the Raptors organization. He knows the city. Like, what is the deal with, oh, well, he's not a head coach, so making him a head coach? This is a very uninspired thinking, in my opinion. It's very uninspired thinking. You have to embrace special personalities when it comes to coaching. I liked Ime largely because he is exactly like Scottie. Yo, who thinks about sleeping with, Think about it. Like, that takes balls, right? They told him to stop too, and he didn't. That takes balls too. You can consider it toxic for sure. Yeah, okay. It wasn't the right thing to do, but man, it took some balls. It probably took some balls to date Nia Long in the first place. That takes balls too, right? He had to approach her at some point, right? She's beautiful. She's absolutely gorgeous. He's just a basketball player, right? She could have had a lot of basketball players. Trust me. You know? Did he think, you know what I mean? Like, look, I just think that they call it, I don't want to get into what they call it, but basically the concept is very simple. It is, you know, confidence carries. And, you know, it's very obvious when people have it and when people don't, right? Michael Jordan went into another team's locker room, right? Larry Bird comes into a locker room and says, okay, congratulations. Which one of you is finishing second and for the 3-point contest? Yo, man, that's like nerves of steel. Like, most of us would probably never say that. Most of us would think, what if I don't finish well? And then these people are going to think I'm an idiot, right? Most people have that sort of fear of potentially looking stupid. If you could lose that fear, your life would change immediately. Immediately. I mentioned this in the last live. People were, a lot of people were talking shit about me on Reddit. And one of the consistent themes that came up over and over again was like, this guy seems so full of himself. He's so arrogant. He's so, he's rude in the comments and stuff. And I was just like, yo, I don't even think I'm being rude. And I don't think I'm being arrogant. I just think I'm being myself. Like, that's the funny thing, right? Some people, like, they put on a personality for this stuff and then they get hated for the personality. And maybe they want to get hated for the personality because, like, you get hated, you get more views, people hate watch, whatever. Yo, I'm just being myself. And I'm getting hated for being, you know, like a prickly personality. And I just thought that was kind of hilarious because I'm just like, yo, I really don't care though, right? Like, I genuinely don't care. I'm being honest. I would definitely be nervous meeting like LeBron James, but I wouldn't be nervous meeting like Kyle Lowry. No offense to Kyle Lowry. Like, I mean, there's LeBron James is like a different level, you know. Like, it's a little bit weird, but like, I'm just saying, like, most people have this fear of what will happen, what will people think. There's a sort of social construct there. And I think if you can lose that, like, if you genuinely don't care what people think about you, and you generally don't care, like what will happen if you don't succeed or whatever, you actually start to succeed because most people walk into a situation saying, don't fuck up. I think the truth is no recognized coach wants to come here. That's not the truth at all. I don't know why people are freaking out, man. Like, y'all relax, yo. I feel like this Ime Udoka going to Houston thing has shattered this fan base more than Kawhi going to LA. Like, what is going on with you guys, man? Like, this is like a sort of a tethering of reality. Like, there are a lot of reasons why the Houston job was very appealing. You don't have to take it as an insult or, oh, the Raptors don't have, like, you know, any way to get a good coach. They're going to get some bum assistant, whatever. It's not like that. Yeah, but you said, I think truth is. Right? Okay, I'll give you an example. You want Nate McMillan? He's a head coach, right? He's a head coach. He had head coaching experience, but he's against shooting threes. He is anti-analytics. He is not very, analytically driven person. In Atlanta and in Indiana, his teams regularly were the worst and least frequent three-point shooting attempts teams. He loves the mid-range. You want him? Chat, let me know. Do you want Nate McMillan? You really do? He has head coaching experience. Nate McMillan over Jama. For real? Oh, no. No, please, God, no. Yo, in the modern NBA, like, I swear, Jason Tatum, like, he 81 from Kobe in that era, put up 100 today. Nate Mitchell is an assistant for the Raptors. No, I'm talking about Nate McMillan. I'm not talking about Nate Mitchell. And no, I don't think that Nate Mitchell is a good candidate. Why do you like him? Did he? I mean, eh. Yeah, you could say they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I could also argue like I don't love how they played under him. Patrick Mutombo. I mean, look, like I think we're all just, we all have our favorites. I don't know why. I guess we have like biases. We all, have an understanding, but genuinely speaking, as I mentioned in yesterday's live, I want the next coach to be a great communicator. This is not the only Jama is not the only one, in that there's there is a person whose name I am forgetting right now. I think he's an assistant coach for the New Orleans Pelicans. If you guys search assistant coaches NBA, there's a Rolodex of all the assistant coaches in the NBA, and you can literally go through one after another, read all their bios. I was like up for 2 hours last night doing that. And I was just like trying to learn a little bit more. And man, some coaching staffs are so huge. No, thank you. Also, no, thank you. Yes. Someone suggested Fred VanVleet, player coach. Mo shots. That's what that's gonna be like. Mo shots. All right, guys. Have a good night, and definitely check out the link if you're interested in Penn Dance. Definitely check out the link for the passes and tickets below. Some super awesome films. Also, if you're looking for something to do on Mother's Day with your mom, I got a treat for you guys. There's a beautiful German film on May 14th. On May 14th. It's incredible. It's an incredible feature, and it's got 2 shorts with it. They're all about motherhood. Definitely the ideal Mother's Day outing at 5 o'clock at the Carlton Cinema in Toronto. Definitely check it out. It's a great idea. And honestly, like, I'm gonna see how ticket sales go. If it's going like everything's sold out, whatever. But if it's not super sold out and like there's still some tickets left, maybe, just maybe, I'll open up like a promo code or something for Pantera basketball peeps. All right. Yo, I wouldn't play Scottie 48 minutes a night. That's funny. Yeah, y'all start a petition, Rob for head coach. I wouldn't know the first thing about how to go about it. I would get fired within a week. I think I get fired like in 2 days. 2 days. I give myself 2 days tops. If 2 days is the over under, I take the under for sure. 100%. I honestly, head coaching is so much politics. So much politics. Yeah, not my jam. And I would definitely fail. But I have thought about coaching, but like youth level, like not professional. Never thought about it. As long. That's a terrible head coach. If Fred VanVleet gets DMPCDs, yikes. Link's broken? No, really? Okay. I think I'll fix it. Hold on. Let me just check. No, it's not. It works. Yeah, check again. It 100% works. Yeah, it works. Coach Mo, coaching the Raptors. Fred, in my office, now. That's funny. That's hilarious. Jose Calderon. Oh, man. No, thank you. I worry about college coaches transitioning to the NBA level But yeah, like, I mean, a lot of people are pushing for Jerry Stackhouse. I'm not one of them. But yeah, anyways, guys, before this gets to an hour, peace. Have a good one. Bye.